Good evening, everyone. I'm Larry Kane, and this is a big night. The first of 3 congressional debates, less than 3 months left till the midterm elections. We have with us tonight, we welcome the candidates in Pennsylvania's 7th Congressional District. Democrat Bryan Lentz is with us tonight, and Republican Pat Meehan. Let's find out a little bit about the candidates before we begin. Bryan Lentz is 46 years old, married with 1 young son. He attended Valley Forge Military College, Georgetown U, Temple University Law School. He currently serves in the Pennsylvania House. Since '07, he's been representing Delaware County. He's a 4th-generation Army veteran who served in the Iraq War, a former airborne ranger who served with the 82nd Airborne Division, earned several commendations, including the War on Terrorism Expeditionary Medal and the Bronze Star for service. Between his deployments, Lentz worked for 6 years as a prosecutor in the Philadelphia DA's office. Let's take a look at Pat Meehan. He's 54. He's married with 3 sons. He attended Bowdoin College, which is in Maine, and Temple University Law School, same school that Bryan Lentz attended. Meehan currently is an attorney in private practice in Philadelphia for 7 years, to '01 till '08. He served as U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Pennsylvania. During that time, one of his biggest achievements, winning a string of convictions as he took on corruption and battle against pay-to-play politics in city government in Philadelphia. He was also the DA in Delaware County for 5.5 years, beginning in January 1996. Enough for the bios. Let's get to the issues. And I'm sort of grading these issues tonight to both of you based on what Americans think are the most important issues that one of you will vote on. The economy. First and foremost, this past Thursday, we found an increase in the number of unemployment applications. What's the solution?
Well, I think there are a number of things we can do and should do in the short term to get people back to work. It's clearly, I was out this morning at a train station in Fulcroft, and I'm out every morning, and it's really issue 1 through 10 for the voters. I think we have to get businesses back to producing and hiring, and I think that there's a couple ways we can do that. One is to focus on manufacturing. In Delaware County and in the 7th District, we have a tremendous manufacturing base. We have companies like American Crane that manufactures cranes, and Boeing, etc. And those companies need incentives to use some of their capital to invest in facilities and in equipment, and also tax credits like research and development tax credits, so that they can continue to produce cutting-edge products that are needed not just here in the United States but around the world.
Well, Larry, I can't agree more. I'm out as I'm walking, knocking on door-to-doors or talking to the folks. There's no issue that I have seen more in my time involved in public service right now than the concern people have about jobs, their sense of economic security, and their concern about the direction of the nation. And when you look and ask people, what they're looking for, they're saying, I want a sense of confidence about where this nation is going, and what can we do to create a job environment that will create good, sustainable private sector jobs. Now, the things that we really need to be focusing on are what I like in our district is the sense of small business. They are the ones that are the economic generator of jobs. Almost all new jobs that are sustainable will begin with small business. Bryan mentioned some things, and I think we agree on those kinds of things in terms of creating opportunities for entrepreneurs. I've come up with, in addition to some of the things that Bryan's talked about, some sort of unique things in the form of trying to have a person who's a first-time business owner, giving an employment tax credit for the first and second employee they bring on, and allowing them to write down capital investment that they make, the kinds of things that will create real jobs.
The Bush tax cuts, should they be rescinded? Or would you vote in the United States Congress to take them back and end them?
Well, I think first and foremost we have to extend the tax cuts for the middle class. I think most people agree that the middle class, the people that make less than $250,000, are going to lead us out of this recession. So giving them tax cuts, they'll put that money back into the economy. They'll purchase things, and they'll buy things for their families. So first and foremost, extend them for the middle class.
What about there's a lot of pieces in the paper and news this last week about wealthy investors fueling the economy or not fueling the economy. How do you feel about that?
Well, I think with the tax cuts for those over $250,000, one of the things to keep in mind is we're talking about, if they roll back, we're talking about a few percentage points that it would be rolled back. But more importantly, that's about $199 billion annually that's going to be added to our deficit/debt. So in the next 10 years, it'll be about $3 trillion. So if we're going to extend tax cuts for that percentage that goes over 250, we ought to seriously consider cutting an equal amount.
You agree with that?
Oh, now is not the time to be making, you know, the tax
But what about
cuts
the middle tax?
Well, certainly, I think everybody's in agreement. You're even seeing the president talk about tax cuts right to the very end. I think we're really just talking about the extending of the 2001, 2003. I think, frankly, there's very little disagreement by most, except when you get to the highest tax level.
How do you feel about that?
Well, I think at this point, the highest tax level, first off, what do I say? I think we ought to extend them for that group as well right now. They're the folks that are going to continue to make the investments. We've got $1.8 trillion of capital sitting here on the sidelines, and we want to get that dollars invested to create real you know, job opportunities.
So what's
here in
the?
this
I don't
region.
hear a lot of difference except for that one between the two of you. I see press releases with a lot of differences all the time,
Well,
but you sound like you're both, with the exception of the $250,000 cap. You sound like you're both agreeing on the same
but we've
thing.
got to find, I mean, Larry, what we're talking about here is the opportunity to create, you know, jobs. You're going to have investment in order to do that. And when you're talking about the top end, you know, those are the folks that are going to find ways to get shelters and other kinds of things to get it out. The folks that are, you know, as Bryan said, you know, the middle class folks right now that are on the edge, the capital gains, the kinds of things that make a difference to them. Dividends. Do you realize that 47% of the people right now who are collecting dividends checks are over the age of 55?
Well, let me ask you this. You've been warring in press releases for months now about the economy. I honestly don't hear a lot of difference here.
Well,
am I missing something?
Well, I think that there's a big difference between wanting to extend tax cuts that are going to cost the country $199 billion a year. I mean, we've tried that. They're not called the Bush tax cuts because they're called that for a reason. And that has given us, in the short term, you know, if you look at what's really contributed to this huge increase in the deficit and debt, the number one factor has been the Bush tax cuts.
Well, wait a second. Didn't the stimulus impact on that too?
It did, but if you compare how the stimulus' impact on the debt to the Bush tax cuts, there's no contest. The Bush tax cuts is the largest contributor to the debt in recent times. And this recession, Larry, didn't come upon us like a plague, right? There was a cause of this, and the cause was the economic policies of the Bush administration, which Pat's essentially espousing now on the campaign trail.
Well,
so that's been really where the war is, that he is espousing policies that have been tried and failed.
Well, on the other hand, though, you know, you have that difference in that the tax cut period, you know, for the wealthier investors. But on the other hand, would you, as a congressman in those years, have voted for this tremendous allocation of expenditures by the Bush administration? I mean, the Bush administration spent like what a Republican would expect a Democratic administration to spend.
Well, I think that's where the problem in the past was the Republicans lost a little bit of the sense of fiscal accountability, and that's where I think the problem is beginning as we look down the road, because in addition to the spending, there's a tremendous concern of the remarkable debt that has been run up over the course of certainly since this recession's begun, but principally since 2008.
Would you have voted for the stimulus?
I wasn't in Congress at the time. Would I have voted for the stimulus? I would not have voted for the stimulus at this point in time. Not that there shouldn't have been dollars that should have been directed at a time that was very tentative, but I think that stimulus was directed at the wrong kinds of things.